Hi, I'm Stevie C and the place to be. And with voting season on the go with the accompanying propaganda in the post and online, I just want to remind you that the Tories are not your friends. Unless you're a billionaire. And you hate pretty much everyone and everything. And you're a I got a few complaints the last time I did a PCB with this slogan, mostly from people who were proud to be British but too scared to show their face, saying how dare I want to hold corrupt politicians to account, and how we should let them off because they're probably all up to no good, allegedly. If the aforementioned applies to you, maybe stop watching before you get offended. Anyway, on with the project. I was doing a bit of pat testing work for someone, and in the batch of lighting to be tested, there were 5 of these failed RGB LED floods from eBay. One failure mode seems to be the LEDs blowing and shorting through to the chassis, which for a grey market import is weirdly grounded. There's not much point in fault finding and trying to repair this, as it wouldn't really be economically viable. So we've decided to reuse the shell and install a custom PCB light effect into it. This is the aforementioned previous PCB, which as you can see doesn't fit into the floodlight case. The client was more than happy with the motto, so I just had to redesign it to shrink its footprint down. The first step was to remove the dud PCB from the flood, clean off the heatsink compound, and shove it in my flatbed scanner along with a tape measure. This is important for later. This allows me to import the footprint of the old PCB into Sprint layout, which allows me to align screw mount holes on my design. As I quite often do, I go to paper before going to copper. This allows me to check trace clearances, visibility of LEDs through the glass, etc. The power circuit is the usual inrush limiter, full wave bridge rectifier and smoothing capacitor feeding a series string of 5mm RGB LEDs. As I mentioned, I was using a capacitive dropper, but there is the option to reduce costs by using high-ish value resistors in place of the capacitor and inrush limiter. You see, I want the LEDs to be as bright as possible, which requires the highest value capacitor I have in stock. A 1 microfarad, which is the equivalent of about 3,183 ohms on a 50Hz supply, is what I'm using, but bear in mind I need 2 of them per floodlight. So let's build another one, this time with resistors. I'm thinking of using 2 470 ohm half-watt resistors rated for 350 volts for the 101 string, and 2 1K resistors for the smaller 95 string. This would run the LEDs closer to their recommended 20 mA, while the resistors should in theory be dissipating less than their rated power. As always, I'm soldering the components in order of height, using blue tack to hold them in place while doing so. I think I'll use the floodlight glass as kablamo protection. Well, hey. Oh, I've got a dead LED. I don't know how hot that resistor is getting as I don't have a thermal image camera, but I have the next best thing, the finger test. Actually no, that's a bad idea because it's live at mains potential and I'm not connected to the isolation transformer. With the power removed, I can confirm it wasn't hot to the touch immediately after. All that remains now is to assemble the project into the chassis. I'm using these nylon PCB spacers to keep the PCB off the metal case. I'll use the original flex with 16A connector as these will probably be used outdoors. I'll have to find something to stuff into the defunct IR controller port. I might just hot glue it. I might as well pat test it while I'm here. The relatively high earth reading is due to the thin wiring supplied by the floodlight manufacturer. So on to pricing. I currently only offer these for sale locally, which is Dundee and surrounding areas if you're wondering. I'm thinking of asking 60 or 70 quid for these. I'm not the BBC, so I don't have to feign impartiality, but I am happy to build ones for other parties. I'll quite happily make ones for Labour or the SNP, but they'll naturally be priced around 400 quid or so, as their detractors can obviously afford to pay more. And if you can't afford to pay the higher prices, you shouldn't be voting Tory. Anyway, thanks for watching this project. Subscribe if you haven't already, like and share, or alternatively leave an angry comment from a sockpuppet account if you got offended. Don't forget to turn caps lock on and auto spell off. Until next time.